Hello, my name is Brayanoski.
And I'm Austin Morales, and you're watching The Inner Gamer On.
And today we have a very special interview with Byron Abrigg from Mission Control. It's a platform for recreational eSports, and we are very excited to chat all about it. So without further ado, let's jump on in.
And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell because it really helps us out. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Each week we dive into a hot topic about video games, and this week we have a very special interview with Byron Abrigg from Mission Control. Byron, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation today.
Yeah, me too. We are very, very excited. So for those of the people that are listening that don't know anything about Mission Control, give us a little synopsis about what you guys do and what your role is within Mission Control.
You got it. So Mission Control, we are a platform for gathering and growing community through recreational esports. My co-founder, Austin, and I founded Mission Control about 2.5 years ago, really inspired by the experience that we had in college, playing college and intramural sports. For us, it was how we played the sports that we loved, but it was more about the people that we were hanging out with. And once we graduated, we had the opportunity to work for an early stage VC investing in esports and sports. And we saw a lot of similarities, but what we didn't see in the growing esports industry was anyone trying to provide that recreational casual experience that we had, in college with our friends for gaming. And so since we didn't find that, we wanted to build it ourselves. And in the last 2.5 years, we have begun working with organizations like the Dallas Park and Rec Department, St. Louis University, Special Olympics of New York, organizations who use our platform to gather their community digitally and offer rec leagues just like they made for sports like soccer or basketball, but for FIFA and Fortnite. My role is Chief Customer Officer. So I work with our 250 plus customers to help them find success for their community, provide the programming that their gamers want, and provide the connectivity that especially nowadays is so important.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what does it look like for you sign on a new program for a new rec department or a university or whatever? What does it look like for them to kind of get that onboarded, and how do you reach out to the existing community to get that conversation started and get them playing the games?
So the first thing, we make sure that all of our organizations understand not only how to utilize the platform, but understand some really basics about video gaming and esports as a whole. We find that a lot of our organizations, they don't necessarily have a gaming background themselves. Maybe their kids play, maybe they used to play growing up, but they aren't actively involved in gaming and esports. And so there's a lot of education that exists at the beginning to just try to help people understand what this industry is and what their community wants to offer. Luckily, we've made it really easy for them to create leagues, and leagues are something that we really push and pride ourselves on, because just like you'd sign up for a basketball league that maybe is 8 weeks long and you've got a small playoffs at the end, we try to really offer the same type of thing, because the nice thing about a league over a tournament is you are guaranteed a certain amount of games. You may sign up for a tournament, you lose the first round, and that's your whole experience. But if you sign up for a league, hey, you're guaranteed 6 weeks. It doesn't matter how good you are. Every Tuesday night, you're going to be showing up and playing against someone. So we help them create the leagues in most popular titles. We always recommend things like Super Smash and Mario Kart and Rocket League, Fortnite, etc. And then we provide them templates and tools to help market to the community that they already have. Luckily for a lot of our organizations, be it a college rec department, they already have students that play in their intramurals. For a park and rec department, they already have email addresses of people who participate in their other programming. So it's just helping them market this new programming to the community that they already have. And then luckily, once people start signing up, what they have to do is very minimal. They really then just get to be a community manager. Our software handles the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. So has it been, what has been the response been like for, the community of I'm sure a lot of these departments and stuff is working with younger audience and stuff like that, but you go to Parks and Rec and stuff, you're going to be playing basketball, football or whatever, you're working out, doing that kind of thing. And now you're playing video games, which I'm sure a lot of them are playing video games at home. So
Yep.
how has that response been? I mean, is it pretty easy, pretty much, to like onboard this, or what are some challenges that you might run into with that? Especially, I feel like with parents, I feel like that's where there's a bit of a more of an education that comes into play with that sometimes.
I certainly, I think one thing that we have really seen in the last year is that there can be a lot more education that's required up front. It's dispelling at sometimes a lot of the negative stereotypes about gaming, that it's something that is unhealthy or, leads to violence or certain things like that. We have really, we've done a lot of research ourselves and, have a lot of industry studies that have been done that, we can really pull on to be like, to dispel those. Yeah. So there definitely is, it really helps when we can find an internal champion. And oftentimes that internal champion is someone who he or herself plays games or has kids that plays games and understands already that, hey, it's just like anything else. Kids are already going to be doing this. This is, a no-brainer for us to include. I think as we've gone on more and more, equipping our organizations with information to parents is key, and making sure that parents feel like this is a safe place for their kids to be able to communicate. We want this to be a place where teens can feel comfortable that, hey, the people that they're talking to are all teenagers, and that there are also people in their community. These aren't complete strangers that they're playing with online. And we've got a lot of things that we're working on from a product standpoint that can really add those extra layers of monitoring and moderation. But we found that as long as we can really have that internal champion and can have someone that can speak to what it's like as a parent to have kids who game, that's what's helped us to get over those barriers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, I could see the local community part of it, I think, is really, really strong and powerful with that, because I mean, you have all kinds of like leagues and tournaments where you can go to, like, say you go to like DreamHack to participate in a tournament, or you go to like some of these big conventions and stuff like that. There's people from all over the place. But like, if you have that consistency in your local community, and you're like a person that plays video games, that you jump online, you have a community of people you play with online that is scattered all over the place. Like here, you could kind of build a bond with like probably local friendship, like build local friendships too through this,
For us, micro communities matter, and especially in I think times of COVID. It's always fantastic, and I am always am amazingly impressed by the people who build lifelong relationships completely online, people that they've never met through gaming. But as someone that growing up, especially and in college, I wouldn't necessarily identify myself as a gamer. I play games. I've got my PlayStation, in my room here with me. But I would prefer to do it with someone that I know. And there's something about playing with someone that's also on your college campus, or also lives in your immediate community, or also, supports this nonprofit or whatever. There's something about that connectivity of having that common ground that I think is really powerful. And it's something that we, in working with parents, hey, you're playing with other people who are in your community, no different than if you were playing in a basketball league and you're playing against other people who live in your same city. There's some common ground that can be found there. And hopefully that can begin to break some of those stigmas down.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when was Mission Control first founded? What year were you guys?
October 2018.
Okay. So 2018 you were started, and I'm sure there was a lot of, just like development through that. But then obviously, as everybody knows, last year, 2020 was pretty intense in that we had a global pandemic. At that point, you guys are like, just a little over a year into the growth of your company. What was that like, transitioning into that? And can you just talk a little bit about what that transition looked like, and, how you reacted to this crazy thing that we were into?
Without a doubt. So I think there are three things that come to mind with it. One is fundraising, and I can speak on that a little bit. Team, and then just business as a whole. We, as a startup, especially early on, you've got to raise money in order to pay the bills and to pay yourselves. And we had raised some early stage, capital from some angels and some friends and family in the first year and a half that we were around. But we set out at the beginning of last year that, hey, we were going to raise our first institutional round, sizable amount of money. And we spent the entire month of February traveling across the country, meeting investors, having conversations, all with the goal, the middle of March to start getting some term sheets to get some capital in the door. And literally 3 days before our kind of internal deadline, date that we had set, the NBA shut down the season. And talking to a lot of sports and eSports investors, groups like DraftKings and the PGA and groups like that, needless to say, they were a little scared, and things kind of really got quiet. And so it was a stressful extra couple of weeks there at the very beginning of all of this we needed capital in the door. We were very lucky that we had two groups that kind of stuck with us through it all, and we were able to raise a seed round with some amazing investors that closed at the end of May last year. But that was some poor timing, some unlucky timing there, and trying to raise capital at the beginning of a global pandemic. That couldn't have been planned. But with that, we raised. We had a couple team members at the time. There were two founders, and we had two other guys who had quit their jobs to come work for us, and weren't getting paid at the time. So it was amazing though to have people like that, have a whole bunch of college students that were first or second degree connections that really stood up to the plate and said, "Hey, this sounds amazing. I've got some extra time." In the middle of it, we rebuilt our entire website. And it was two college students from USC that we got connected to who were like, "I have to work from home. I'm bored. My classes aren't great right now. Can I work for you?" And they were amazing. And we would not have been able to get through the spring if it wasn't for a lot of college interns who just stood up to the plate and said, "This sounds amazing. I'm going to dive in and commit." They really were the backbone of getting us through so much in the spring. Wow. And then lastly we saw a huge surge in customers. We had roughly say 50 customers at the beginning of March last year, and we tripled in 3 months. So it was a type of growth that we hadn't, obviously dream of, but you don't have necessarily plans for that. You don't expect that to happen overnight by a pandemic. But we were incredibly thankful that we were able to have a platform that could help communities connect in a time that it really mattered. We were also really thankful that because of that we were able to give back to our local community. We were able to donate a good deal of money to the St. Louis Food Bank, which is where we're based, because we were like, if we're somehow benefiting from this and we're helping other communities, the least that we can do right now is also help our community at the same time, and especially the people who really need it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that's congratulations on the just the fast growth and being able to scale that quickly. I'm curious on like the just from somebody that like I always have, and I feel like there's a lot of people that whether they're listening now or later or whatever that have like cool ideas and have an interest in stuff like that, but like I'm curious from your perspective, like what does it look like how do you figure out how to raise the money and build that stuff? And I mean, obviously you had another added benefit of in a pandemic, but like, what is like, did you guys have that background, like with like, going through the MBA and stuff like that? Or did you figure it out yourself? And how did you go about figuring out all that process? There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. What's some advice you can give to somebody that wants to start doing that?
So it's a great question. So I will say that Austin and I were very fortunate that we, out of college, had the opportunity to work for an early stage investor that was investing in other early stage sports and esports companies. So okay. we had a very kind of privileged view to be able to see what worked and what didn't work for all of these other startups. And for us, that was kind of a crash course. But until you start doing it yourself, it all sounds nice and that things are going to go smoothly. And until you start doing it, I think that one thing that was always really important for us from the very beginning was having a lot of friendly conversations. I learned in college, someone had told me this adage of you ask for money, you get advice. You ask for advice, you get money. And so from the very beginning, we really tried to lay the groundwork to go and talk to investors that were 1 or 2 stages ahead of where we wanted to be at, or where we were, to just understand what they cared about. It was very much, hey, here's this idea. We're super early. We don't have any traction. But what are the things that if we were to come and talk to you a year from now, you'd want to see?
Yeah.
And that luckily, we were fortunate that yes, we did have, a network of some investors already, but you can find a lot of groups online that, are early stage or, invest in certain verticals and kind of lay that groundwork, and just start reaching out and say, hey, I've got this idea, we're early, but I'd love to know, if I were to come talk to you a year from now, what would you care to see? And so by the time that, a year ago, we actually set out to start fundraising, we already had, a list of 60, 70 people who we had some sort of informal conversation with before to say, hey, we're actually looking to raise now. Here's the growth that we've gotten. We'd love to talk.
Yeah.
So laying that groundwork is super important. I think another thing is test early and collect data and prove traction. Our first version of our product was a Squarespace website and Google Docs. It was not fancy at all. But from that, we got 5 customers. Yeah. We had 3 colleges and 2 co-working spaces who were willing to test out this idea with us. And basically from that test, we were able to raise $400,000 because we proved, hey, there's a market here. These people are willing to do this. They're willing to try this. And this is just off of this, idea, this website. And as we, thought about raising this capital and we think about raising more capital in the future, what are the things that we can test now that we can prove so that we can prove a hypothesis that, hey, if we do this and you give us this amount of money, we can now grow in this way because we've tested out this, this calculation. And we know if you give us 100K and we spend it here, that'll get us 50 more customers or whatever that number is. The more tests that you can have and data points that you can gather, even if it's at a small scale, the more valuable and beneficial those conversations will end up being when you go to an investor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Cool. So I want to kind of pivot a little bit to talk on the participant experience side and what that looks like. I mean, we've talked, about how department gets set up with everything, but from a user perspective, like what does that kind of flow look like once they find out about this, they want to get involved? I know there's an app and stuff like that, but like talk to me a little bit about that experience and also some of the games that you guys work on. I know we talked about Rocket League and stuff like that, but yeah, we also talked before this about the growth of games that you support. So I want to dive into that a little bit.
For sure. So as you mentioned, our user experience as a player is through a mobile app. When we were conceptualizing this idea, there were a couple of things that we kind of took inspiration from. And 2 of the primary ones were what it's like to be in a fantasy football league or fantasy baseball league with your friends. And you've got a mobile app that's got stats in it. And, you see who you're playing and you see all of those things. And then if you are like us, you then also have a group me where then you trash talk and you joke with your friends about that stupid move you made, or I'm going to beat you this week or whatever. Or you just send gifts and, don't talk about anything related to the sport. And so we said, okay, well, we want to bring those 2 things together. So from the very beginning, we wanted a mobile app where you could get your schedule, you could see your stats, you could see your standings, and then you could chat with the people in there. That was something that was really important to us. The extra layer that we kind of added on that is almost a Facebook page like experience. So someone downloads the app, they then look and see, okay, who are the groups that are on here and what community can I go and join? What organization can I go be a part of and see what programming they're offering? So, say it was the Inner Gamer, one of your listeners or, community members downloads the app, sees, hey, the Inner Gamer, I'm going to join this. You then are offering, a Fortnite league. So they sign up for that Fortnite league. Once they're in there and the season closes, registration closes, they get a schedule of who they're playing every week. They can then communicate not only with everyone who's a part of the league, but they can also communicate with their opponent that specific week. When it comes to game time, they can reschedule if they need to play at a different time because that time doesn't work. They then submit their scores and then it gets calculated and, a win and a loss is attributed. you do that throughout the course of the season. It then gets to the playoffs. You've got a bracket, you got a champion that's, crowned at the end. That's what the experience looks like today for players. And it's something that we're really excited to build upon. We've got a lot of ideas and some really valuable feedback that we've received from players over the last year about how we can make that experience more intuitive, and the extra things that we can add, like around accomplishments and a player profile and earning badges and things like that, that we're really excited to expand to.
Yeah.
But that's really kind of what the player experience looks like now.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Gamification, I think, will be really, really interesting to kind of do that, especially if, so wait, are you able to now, like when you download the app, like you can browse and find local stuff if you're not already like involved in that? Okay. That's
correct.
That's cool. Cause I could see that being pretty valuable to discover. I like the thing that you mentioned about the chat, being disparate before. Cause like I'm in a fantasy football league with my friends every year, whatever, on Yahoo Fantasy. And it's like, we use WhatsApp to talk and go back. So I'm like, I don't want to have to go back. That's the only thing I use WhatsApp for, is that exact like conversation with this group of people. And I'm like, I'd rather just have it all here. So that's really awesome. Do you have GIF support in your app right now?
Not yet, but we're excited to add it. Because we for one of the things that was, especially pre-COVID, that was really important to me, was I was in an indoor co-ed soccer league that we played every Thursday night. And the only reason that I had GroupMe was for that. And that was the only thing that anyone ever sent any messages about. We had our soccer GroupMe, and that was it. But then you have a completely different website, or like you only get schedules via email. Yeah. And that's not a great experience. Why couldn't those two things live together?
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a tough one. The more you can.
You would also ask about. Good. Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say today, you had also asked about games. Yeah. So, one of the things that we thought from the very beginning that was important to us was picking games that were rather accessible. We wanted it to be pretty easy to play, and they were pretty common, and you didn't have to have, a fancy gaming PC or, an immense knowledge of a game in order to play. And so we started with, the major sports games. We started with Rocket League, Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, Call of Duty. And it was all basically 1v1 or 2v2, teams of two. We've been really excited, though, that over the course of the last year, we rolled out a completely basically rebuilt version of our software. And now we support over 36 titles right now. So we've expanded from just those traditional sports, games and, simple 1v1 type titles to the more traditional eSports titles, League, Overwatch, Dota, you name it. We can support all the way up to, teams of 10 if you had a game that supported teams of 10, most typically teams of 6. But we've been really excited to be able to expand the number of games that we can support, provide a much more team-like experience that's more common to recreational sports, but also to experiment and find new ways to play. We obviously support, say, Overwatch, for instance. 6v6 is the normal way to play, but they've also got a 1v1 and a 3v3 mode. So, an organization could choose to offer one of those less popular versions, but hey, it's a new way to play. And we're excited as we continue to grow how we can explore and try out new ways to play. Fortnite, it's typically most elims and, your best placement. But what if it was most damage that you could get, or most things you could build, within a game? That changes the entire way that the game is played. And we're fortunate that we have, built the platform in a way that we can test and experiment those different things.
Yeah. What are the most popular games that you find people jumping into? I'm sure Fortnite's definitely one of them, and Rocket League. But I mean, is there any surprises, I guess?
Well, I'll say Rocket League, hands down, the most popular game on the platform.
Nice.
From the very beginning. And that's, I think, part of the reason is we're a little skewed, is that when we had limited, types of titles, Rocket League was one of those from the beginning.
Yeah.
But just on the surface of why I think it's so popular, it's easy to understand. It's easy to figure out how to play, and it takes a long time to master it. You've got teams, so you can play with other people. and most importantly, it's cross-platform. And especially in the last year, as Epic has, made it free, through the Epic Store and things like that. Of course, all of those things make it a great game, and is great for, a casual recreational experience. Beyond that, Smash has consistently, been up there. Call of Duty, especially with the addition in Modern Warfare of gunfight, and having quicker, shorter, smaller team like experiences. It's much easier to find one other person to play with you than 4 other people to play with. Sports games, FIFA and 2K have consistently been the most popular of those. We're still pretty early in supporting things like League and other stuff. I will say that we have, since we rolled out all of these new games, one that has been very popular has been Words with Friends.
Interesting. I didn't know that was still a thing.
Words with Friends. The mobile Scrabble, light from a couple of years ago. And I think a big reason for that is, especially from a park and rec standpoint, hell, even some of our colleges, it's an easy thing to get some of the staff members to participate in. And it's something that an older generation of gamers who maybe don't own a console but have a mobile phone, they understand how that works, and they, are more open to trying something like that. So it's been interesting to see how mobile games have been embraced.
That's interesting, man. I haven't touched that game in a long time. I want to say,
me neither.
One time I was at a random conference and I ran into a guy that was working for this company, and I was like, man, I feel like I know that name somewhere. And I go up to the guy and I see his shirt and he has Words with Friends on his shirt. And I was like, that's the guy that worked on the game. So cool. I felt like I met like a huge, crazy celebrity back then. I mean, he obviously has done huge success, but it's like, wow, that's wild.
I was thinking, great. Can you put Among Us on there? I don't even know if that's even worth. That might be too crazy for keeping score and stuff.
It's something that it's been frequently requested. I can tell you that. So right now we have 2 primary ways that games work for us. It's either direct head to head. So Austin and Brett, you both are playing a game of Super Smash Brothers against each other, and one of you is going to win, one of you is going to lose.
Right.
The other way is indirect head to head. So say it's something like Fortnite. So Brett, you are playing your 3 games, and Austin, you're playing your 3, and your stats from each of those is going to determine who wins. What we're excited to be able to include in the future is something that would work better with Among Us. That's more of like, you've got 6 people playing at the same time in a lobby each week, and it's less of who wins and it's more of like who shows up and who plays. We had a group a year ago that was really interested in using our platform for D&D. Obviously, you don't have a winner and loser in D&D, but they appreciated or liked the idea of every Wednesday night, D&D is scheduled, and you can keep track of who shows up and, maybe they're, XP or whatever over the course of the time. And it's using it more as just scheduling and communication than determining a winner and a loser. So I think when we can expand to include those types of things, something like Among Us is a perfect addition, because it's less about who wins and loses and more about every Wednesday night, this group of friends is getting on and we're playing Among Us together and hanging out.
That's really interesting. I never thought of it in that kind of application, because I know there's apps out there for finding, pre-COVID kind of situations, but like finding people who want to meet up at like a concert, or want to go to a brewery, just like find people, or just make it easier just to schedule with friends. Because now that obviously Facebook's still huge, but I feel like Facebook is definitely kind of on a slight decline as far as it's the go-to for the younger generations for finding events and things to do. So they need another outlet for that. And, there isn't really a good, at least I haven't found a good outlet. You have things like Eventbrite, and you have things like, you can find stuff on Instagram kind of, or your local subreddit for your local community or whatever, but that stuff's all over the place trying to dig through it. But there's one central source for this type of thing that I'm really interested in. That's a really interesting perspective on how to kind of push that further. What about have y'all thought of, obviously Twitch streaming and stuff like that is massive. Like, have you looked into how you can tie in these scheduled events to
widget
offer? Yeah, like some kind of integration with like Twitch and adding that like streaming component to it for universities or whatever to broadcast these tournaments and leagues.
Most definitely. Widgets has been something that we've been talking internally as a team. It's been something that like continues to get brought up every couple of weeks of like, hey, is it time that we should start thinking about adding widgets or making widgets, possible? Streaming is something from the very beginning that we have recognized its potential, but haven't figured out its direct integration yet.
Yeah. And
the biggest reason is that when we were exploring what Mission Control was going to be, and we were looking at a lot of the different companies that are, more tournament organizers or event competitions or things like that, for a lot of them, there was a requirement that you had to stream. And I understand why and like the benefit of it. But for someone like myself that I've never streamed. And I don't really watch too many people stream. To require me to do it would have been a barrier for me to participate.
Yeah.
And for a lot of our park and rec departments, especially if they're working with teens, it's already difficult at times to convince parents that, hey, your kids should be playing video games and doing it in this setting, let alone to then say, oh, you also need to stream.
Yeah.
At the same time, we have a ton of customers who are like, we're really interested in trying to stream and we don't know what to do with it or how to do it. So we were talking before we started recording this today about what gaming and all of this is going to look like post-COVID when people can get together in person again. I am excited and can see the potential for streaming when, say, a park and rec department or even just a college, they've got, a room in their rec center that kids can come and play their weekly games, but then maybe they also have a streaming studio. So if they want to dabble in it, they can try that and they don't have to buy the equipment themselves. A lot of our groups are also frankly interested in the marketing opportunity. We work with Special Olympics of New York, and last year when they did their first, kind of season, they had some of their players, recorded, and that was a great promo video that they could send to donors and to be like, look at what, our athletes are doing. So yeah. I'm excited to be able to help some of our customers who want to dabble understand what streaming is and the most base level of what you could do, and then help them use it as a marketing tool and a cool experience for their gamers instead of a requirement and barrier to compete.
Yeah. I could even see it as like, I think back to like whenever Discord added the feature to stream inside of the platform, I was like, I don't get this. Like, why does this, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But as our community has started to, like, what they'll do is they'll be sitting there playing and somebody will just go live for just anybody who just happens to hop in in Discord. They'll just go live so we can hop in the Game Voice channel. I can see what they're doing at that moment. Or like the other day I was playing with my friend where we've been all playing this game Valheim on PC. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've seen press on IGN about it. I swear every time I open up IGN, there's another Valheim article in there.
Yeah. We've been doing a lot of that. So I was playing with a buddy of mine, and he's like has way more hours in it than I do, and he turned his stream on. I was like, hey dude, check this out, like look where I am. And I could just click in there. Like I have two screens on my computer, so over here I'm playing the game, over here I'm watching him like climbing this mountain that I've never been to because I can't get there yet. And that kind of just like, I could see it, some kind of application where, like you mentioned, like you can browse when you're trying to find a league to join. Like if there was a stream going on at that moment, like a try before you buy kind of barrier, like see what the game is like, see what the people are like, and watch a game playing before you actually enter into the tournament league to see if it's make you feel a little bit like ease the barrier to entry, I guess, by watching it play. Something like that could be interesting. I don't know.
One of the things that I like about what you just mentioned, that use case of streaming, is that it's more internal than external focused.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that's important for us to be able to figure out, because, gaming in college for me was my roommates and I, Black Ops 2 zombies, like religiously, we'd pour 2 to 3 hours a night into it. Austin, my co-founder, even got his then girlfriend, now wife, like she even got addicted to it, and she would be playing with us, even when he wasn't there, she'd be playing with the rest of us. But the fun thing about it is sitting there looking over your buddy's shoulder and telling them what they should or shouldn't be doing. Oh, watch out for that one. If we could integrate a way of streaming where it's just you showing to the other people in your league what you're doing, instead of it feeling like I am broadcasting this to the world, I think people would be a lot more open to it.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't matter if you're good or not, because you're just doing it with your buddies. Whereas I think as soon as you put it on Twitch and anyone can go and watch, you now feel of the pressure of, but I'm not that good. Should I be out there? I don't want to get, ragged on. And so that's a balance that we have to try to figure out. I think if we can, I think streaming becomes a really cool experience within Mission Control.
Yeah. Yeah. I could definitely see something like that, just being a potential, like these like micro communities of streams that are happening. It's not like you're having to be super fancy and have like your whole light set up and everything like that, like you would on like Twitch or whatever. But it's just, I just want to share this match that's going on. I'm in this league and I want to see what the other people are doing and kind of see what their game looks like. That'd be interesting and you could even get a notification like, hey, so-and-so is about to start or streaming their match against this person that you just recently competed against or whatever. And you could jump in there and turn it on and watch it and just see it unfold. Maybe you're sitting at work and you're like, I'm going to plug this in, put my headphones in and watch it for a second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
or even if you don't hop in to watch, you can see highlights afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Yeah, definitely some interesting stuff there.
Well, when we were trying to stream, we wanted to do because there's 4 of us, right? We wanted to have all of our streams going at the same time, but together on one screen, and that's an issue. And it's probably a little more complicated here, but it'd be cool to have a place where everyone's streaming and you get to see everyone's feed, and it's just kind of okay, I can see everything happening as it's happening, and I don't have to jump between a bunch of stuff. I mean, I don't know how that would work, but it'd probably be something as easy as embedding stuff into a page or whatever.
It's group FaceTime but streaming. How do you make that possible?
Yeah, there's a site that was trying to do it, but I don't think they got very far. They had a bunch of lag issues and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the hardest part. It's just depending on where you are, not everybody's running gigabit or 5G or anything like that right now. So it's until we get to that level, you always have that challenge of, and then you also want to make sure if you do launch this product, it's going to be you don't want to be blamed for poor internet quality, for your product or whatever. Yep. But that would totally happen, I'm sure, with some people. But really interesting though. I like the this just the micro community idea is really cool to think about, because I look at all these streamers now that have literally are personalities that have built up an audience, and people literally tune in every single day just to watch this one person that they've now kind of found this sense of community with these people that watch this person. And that person comes in every day and has this conversation with all of them. And that's their little bubble of people that they hang out with. And I don't watch any streamer regularly or anything like that, but it's just fascinating to me that's become such a big thing, and people gravitate towards this one. I mean, their news source is Twitch streamer person as opposed to the IGN. That's where they get their information. So it's interesting, where I feel like we're in this transition period of what is the next step of this streaming world that continues to grow, and then how does that play more into just the esports thing generally. But I do want to talk a little bit on, I know you guys have been interacting and bringing on a lot of people in the esports community over the past year and a half or whatever. What are some how does that come about? I know we talked a little bit prior to this of you recently partnered with Wise Venture Esports, and then you have Daniel Hurst. I may have butchered that name, but a couple people that you brought on, good. That have been involved in esports in the past. So how did those relationships come about, and what did that bring? I mean, obviously they bring in the esports background into the conversation here. What does that look like, and how does that help you guys kind of further solidify yourselves into this space?
I'll first speak to Daniel. So Daniel was one of, I think, the second conversation that Austin and I had with anyone when we had this idea about mission control. And we had met him through our previous job and didn't have any sort of working relationship even really with him. And when we started talking about it, he immediately went to, this is like college intramurals. This is what I did with my buddies in college. This was how I played CSGO. Like really lean into that. And, we continued that relationship for, the first year that we were around, and we reached an opportunity towards the end of 2019, where, he was looking for, what he wanted to do next. And, he saw the opportunity with us to really focus on the infrastructure build and saw what, having worked at ESL and then working at Complexity, saw what things were like and how they could be improved at the hyper competitive professional level, and, saw the future of where this is going to go. And it, is going to start being built lower and lower. Traditional sports was built from the ground up. Esports has really been built from the top down. And he saw where that opportunity could exist. I think, two ways that having him as a part of our team have been immensely beneficial. One is early on, it brought an immense amount of validation to us and what we were doing as a company. To have someone that was well known in the esports space, to have worked at the highest level, to be able to speak to the opportunity that he saw, the hole that he saw in the industry, was an immense, addition. But secondly, he is phenomenal at partnerships and sponsorships and just bringing big brands to the table and having conversations. We've been very fortunate to, have a lot of conversations with companies that we would otherwise have no reason to have a conversation with early on, because of Daniel's background and experience. And, it was without a doubt, one of the best hires, best choices that we possibly could have made as a company to bring him on as a part of the team. Because of his background, Wise Ventures and the Roker and V1, is one of those opportunities that we got because of his background and experience and insights. And it's been really awesome to work with them over the course of the last 6 months or so when we first started working. And the use case that they've used with us is fan tournaments or fan leagues. They were already just kind of like popping up and doing some things makeshift through their Discord and managing it through a third party bracket. And they said, hey, we've got people that are showing up every week that want to play. Well, what if we, put some structure around this and, put a prize at the end of it? And hey, it's a 6 to 8 week engagement. You're playing, COD every Thursday night. And, at the end of it, we'll have a champion. We can stream it and, boom. And one of the reasons that it's been really great to work with partners like them and those that come from the gaming, come with more of a gaming background is they, I think, really push us to be better and challenge us because they present new insights and opportunities than the majority of our customers do, just because they don't have a gaming background, the majority of our customers. And, it's a lot more focused on education. Whereas when we work with a group like the Roker, it's a lot more of how can we push the boundaries of what our platform can do? And what are those things that, groups that are ingrained in the industry, what do they want to see our platform to be able to do? And what can we integrate as a result of it that benefits all of our customers? So it's great to work with groups like that really push us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, cool. I'm trying to think if is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you'd like to dabble on?
That's a good question.
I have one more question.
You got
it. Anything else after that? What does the future hold for Mission Control? Like what are some of the next things that you guys are open to talking about that, obviously there's things that you haven't revealed or probably are still in beta or whatever, but what can we expect from the future of Mission Control?
So I will say there are two things that immediately come to mind. First is we've got a lot of great things on the horizon from a product standpoint. We, as I had mentioned, I think earlier, we were non-technical founders and, built the first version of our product. We're incredibly proud of what we built, but it wasn't necessarily something that was there for us to be able to scale. And we've spent the last year bringing in an entire new dev team with some just rock star talent to really rebuild the platform from the ground up and, re-envision what this can be going forward. And we're now at a point that I'm really excited by the stuff that we've got in the works that we finally are going to have the bandwidth and time and resources to be able to devote to. I think some really cool things around gamification and just user experience that I think we've, admittedly needed. And now we finally are at a point that we can start doing that. So yeah. I'm really excited for what players who have been with us, what the experience is going to look like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, because I think it is going to be radically different and in a really exciting direction. So I think that's one. I think secondly, we've got some cool programming things on the horizon. We've got some big partnership conversations that are in the works that are some really interesting use cases of the platform that we hope to be getting over the line here in the next few weeks and can be able to talk a little bit more about them. But some really cool brands that are interested in using our platform to engage their community in a completely different way than they have before, but are also putting on some things that I think are going to be really big community facing things that hopefully provide a lot of our park and rec departments and communities and the gamers there some opportunities for some recognition and cool competition. So some awesome programming things on the horizon.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, excited to see what's coming and looking forward to that. And if whenever any new big exciting announcements happen, let us know. We'll love to share it to those that have been, hopefully will be listening to this and let them know about where things are going with Mission Control in the future. And then before we close out, obviously, where can people find you at?
Yes. So please, you can visit us at missioncontrol.gg. You can also follow us on all major platforms, Play MC. But we look forward to hopefully having you join us and begin gaming with your micro community that you're a part of.
There you go. Awesome. Well, Byron, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time on your day off here to talk with us and chat. Hope you get to enjoy the beautiful weather outside and looking forward to just seeing more from Mission Control. I mean, it's really exciting having us talk to you guys, probably a year ago, however long that's been, to see where things have gone now. I'm really glad that we were able to reconnect and just see things. I mean, that's what's really what I love about just the gaming community is that there is, although, I mean, gaming now is, we just celebrated the 25th anniversary of Pokemon last week, which makes me feel really old, but it's still very young, as like overall, like the overall experience, like the business side of like gaming is still young, especially on eSports. Definitely with companies and stuff like that are making games, they're growing a lot more, but all things considered, nobody's been around for 50 years. There's still a lot of time to grow and develop and stuff like that. So it's really cool to see this stuff happen, and I'm excited for what you guys have working here. And it looks like you've found this path that's really, really awesome and exciting. It's filled a void that I feel like was missing. So it's been really cool.
I appreciate all of that. And I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with both of you today. And thank you for the support that you guys have shown us from the very beginning. Because it's communities like yours that see the potential in what we're doing, and and that means a lot to us. So thank you for that. Thank you for having me on today, and I certainly look forward to continuing the conversation, and hopefully when it's safe again, and I'm in Dallas the next time, we can actually meet up in person. I look forward to that.
Yes, definitely hit us up when you're down here and when we can do that safely. Hopefully it'll be sooner than later. Awesome. Well, that's going to wrap it up for discussion this week, everybody. If you want to contribute to next week's segment, you can join us on our Discord channel and check out that link in the show notes. We'll be right back with our upcoming video game releases. And we are